Study Moorish Holy Quran lessons. Don't be fooled by the leaders saying they black, taking yellow envelopes, weighing they stacks, sold you out to the lodge, and government corpses sacrifice their own to their pale god bosses. Don't be fooled by the leaders saying they black, taking yellow envelopes, weighing they stacks, sold you out to the lodge, and government corpses sacrifice their own.
Islam. We're here for another installment. We'll just start up with the prayer. 5 on the left, 2 on the right. Allah, the Father of the universe.
Allah, the Father of the universe.
Father of love.
Father of love. Truth.
Peace.
Freedom.
And justice.
Allah
is my protector.
Allah is my protector.
My guide. And my salvation. By night. And by day. Through His holy prophet. Noble Drew Ali. Islam. Peace and Hotep. I'm good now. So we're here. We're doing another Canaanland Moors Skype presentation. Today's presentation is once again Moors in Khalifa who are continually active. Moors who are continually doing work. And the brother that we have today, Rami Salaam El, the real reason why the brother's getting a platform, because he's connected to Hip Hop Moor Science Temple of America.
Hip Hop Moor Science Temple?
So the concept is that the Moor Science Temple of America has to be accessible to everybody. And we know that this time that we're living right now is the foundation of this generation is hip hop music, right? So to reach people, you know, the brother has videos out, and he presents the information for anybody to get it. He doesn't present too add-up information. He doesn't present too inept information. He presents information on a frequency that anybody could get it, right? Just like hip-hop, anybody could relate to it. Any nation out there, you ask them about hip-hop music, they'll tell you something, right? Whether they have their pants hanging off their ass or whatever, whether they have hats backwards, whether they smoke blunts, drink 40s, whatever, right? The essence of hip-hop music is universal, right? So the teachings, the lessons that the brother presents is from that perspective, that no matter where you are in your frame of mind, you're gonna get where he's going with the information that he's presented, right? Just like we were talking about, you know, everybody presents information in different ways, right? There's people, you know, who they only listen to certain individuals because of the presentation, right? And because of the confusion created by people who are against what Noble Drew Ali brought, we have to now come up with different ways to try to get this message out to people so they get this. Because people aren't getting this, right? Some people are getting it, but the way people get new sneaker that's coming out, hair, nails, the way people get that, people aren't getting this. So we have to do tremendous work to make sure that when we stretch our hand out, our hand is stretching past those people who are pushing sneakers, shoes, and whatever else that they got, that they're trying to get people to gravitate to, so that they don't gravitate to this. Because this is the most important thing right now, that anybody who says that they're Negro, black, colored, has melanin, carbon, they're from whatever, this is where they're supposed to be at. If they're not here, if they're not gravitating on this information, if they're not going in this direction, they might as well be pillars of salt, looking in the wrong direction. Right? So you had
no, I think you were talking about hip hop and that being the part of his direction.
Yeah.
And I was saying there's lots of people who, even who I'm around, who hip hop, they don't want to hear hip hop.
Right, right.
So, but you corrected yourself and said that he was on a frequency of just getting it out there to people on a not being adept and not being not adept.
Right,
so,
right. But on the level, like, somebody might say, "Oh, I don't like hip hop," but they got sneakers on. They got baggy jeans on.
No, but I just wanted to say
they got a hoodie on or a knapsack or.
But I don't think those things are. I don't think those things are exclusively hip hop. Where I do think that you made a good point was that I was looking at a lot of sisters and I see the way fashion is. I see the way that they seem to be able to transmit the message that they want females to get or males to get in terms of fashion.
Yeah.
We definitely got to be on that level on how we transmit
information.
But what I realize is part of that is due to their umbrella, which is able to then get that out there. You go to any magazine and they got the sneakers on, they got the hoodies on, they got the certain dress on. That's how you see everyone is dressing the same way because it's a barrage.
Yeah.
It's a blitz. Right. So you're going to get that. Sorry to interrupt.
No.
But that's what I'm saying. I agree with you completely.
Right. So we got about hour and a half, 2 hours, right, as usual. So we're just gonna open the floodgates, and also too. The brother requested that it's open, as usual. Yeah. So any comments, whatever comes to mind, hear something, heard something, feel free to add it on.
All right.
And we welcome Brother Rami Salaam El Skype.
Islam. Appreciate the form. Thank you.
Okay,
let's first jump right into the prophecies. I'm going to be reading from the oral statements and prophecies of the Prophet Noble Ali, founder of the Old Canaanite Temple, 1913 AD, MC 1333, Northwest of Bexley. You can find this literature at rvbaypublications.com. Amazing source. I always recommend anyone that's looking for Moorish American information, Moorish information, nationality information, go to RV Bay Publications. And like a wise man says, stay there. Stay there for a year. And just study.
Islam.
We'll get right into the first prophecy. Prophecy 57 on page 12. And it reads, Sister A. Brown L. of Temple number 4 and number 25 said that the Holy Prophet said to the Moors, watch the newspapers and listen to the radio. I am going to make the Europeans tell the truth. Okay? The first example is Pilar Sanders' Love L. Day, Deion Sanders' ex-wife, was recently in the news via TMZ. And I'll read the article real quickly. Pilar Sanders is a Moorish national aboriginal indigenous natural person who should not be governed by any laws or courts in the United States of America, or so she's claimed in a bizarre new legal document. The ex-wife of Deion Sanders, who now goes by Pilar Biggers Sanders Love L. Day, filed documents to appeal a judgment that upheld the prenup in her divorce and potentially cost her millions. Pilar's document claims she is now affiliated with the Moorish divine and national movement of the world, which best we can tell, she rambles for pages about the group, which means she only can be judged by the Moroccan Empire. So translation, we're not really sure. Either way, Ms. Love L. Day's appeal was dismissed, even before this strange filing, and for some reason she thinks this will give her case new life in the courts. Viva Morocco. Okay? So first, the first lesson that I would like to make us all aware of is the source of information. We know this is coming from TMZ. Who is it ran by? Who owns TMZ? We got to figure out that perspective. Secondly, the article doesn't state who is writing this article itself. It just says TMZ staff. So from that perspective, we have to be aware that we cannot just believe everything that is being said in the article. In the Holy Quran, it teaches us that man knows not by being told.
Islam.
So we have to investigate. Where's the legal document that they're referring to? How come they don't make that for us to read? This is very key. And thirdly, it's called a bizarre legal document. Why is it bizarre? Just think about this. I mean, we know, but this is more so for the people that may have heard about or seen this TMZ article, and they're just believing what is being said. Don't believe. It is time we know. We're gonna. Oh, and lastly, on this point, I did some investigating into other articles, involving this same information, and strangely enough, all of them link back to TMZ as the primary source for the information. So, the few different articles that I saw out there, they were all just parroting, literally word for word, what TMZ was saying. And so, by extension, we also can't just go with what these other articles say, because they're just following along and just going on what they've been told. We're going to go down to prophecy 167. It's on page 24. The Holy Prophet said, "One day you will see a $20 bill in the street and would not bend over to pick it up." Now, we already know that what we've been calling money is really just Federal Reserve notes, fiat. So we already know that it's worthless. But in the news as of recent, there's been several articles discussing the long-term outlook of the quote-unquote U.S. dollar. And many of the economics, the economic professionals, mostly European, are informing the people that in the long term, the U.S. is not going to have any power like they used to. They're not going to be the currency that everyone is trading with. China, $20, they're going to have few.
Well, peace, Mark. Sorry, we're getting a break in the signal right now. You're not getting any volume from it.
Are we
She's kind of tripping out.
Let's wait a little bit. Testing.
All right. Yeah, you can go. Yeah, you can start over again.
Okay. From
the prophecy.
You can start over from where he's talking about the currency not being the currency not going to be
right from the currency part.
The currency not being
not being able to be used.
Yeah. Right. So let's build from there. There's an organization called BRICS, which stands for Brazil, Russia, India, China, and South Africa. And so, in short, they're clicking up to create their own international bank so that they can trade as opposed to going through the IMF and using the U.S. Federal Reserve. And if we take a look at those nations, specifically Russia and China, we know that and India, those are three of the biggest nations, coming up in the world today. And we see through the media that the U.S. doesn't have very good relations with Russia or with China. India is taking a lot of the workforce away, and the jobs that we've had here are being outsourced. And all of those nations have better relations with other nations around the world than the U.S. And so really, it's only a matter of time before all the nations decide to go through the BRICS International Banking Organization as opposed to the IMF and using the U.S. Federal Reserve note. And once that happens, you know, that is the.
Can I interrupt? Can I ask a question?
That's the fall. That's the fall of the U.S. The U.S. Yeah, that we're working with.
Islam.
And I guarantee. Yes, sir.
Yeah, quick question, Mark.
Can I ask a question? Is this not going to be replacing one Judas with another, possibly?
I'm sorry.
Sorry, hold on. Is this not going to be like maybe replacing one evil for another evil? Though, you know, I mean, I'm getting the impression that the beginning of any change is going to be good. And interestingly, you mentioned that. I was talking with another unawakened Moor who told me that basically, I think I was telling you this, the United States of South America has now gotten together as a partnership, like Ecuador, Chile, and some of these other places. They have separated themselves from the United States as well. So I think that was in the works from before. But I'm just wondering whether Islam. I'm just wondering whether is there a fear that these people could just be another form of the IMF?
Well, in truth, I feel that the answer, the solution to that is the more standing up. Because, you know, I feel that pretty much all of the issues that we see out there stem from the fact that we are not standing up and being leaders. And so, you know, the evil or the worries, I think will go away quickly once we rise as the nation and, you know, we're standing on the principles of love, truth, peace, freedom, and justice. That's my perspective. But, you know, time will tell.
Yeah, Islam. Yeah, I think that ultimately I mean, technically America is not a bad place. The people who are running America now are bad. So we have to get rid of these crooks. So, I mean, that's where this is at, right?
Indeed.
Islam, go on.
I mean, it really seems like, you know, everyone is waiting on us, you know, because everyone else is getting with the program and disassociating themselves with the corrupt de facto corporation posing as the government. But it's, you know, we are the leaders, you know, we're the mothers and fathers of civilization, so we have to stand up. We got to lead the way.
Just as you were talking about other nations, if you could back up a little bit and talk a little bit about your coming into the information and you know, being led to this position, you know, as far as, you know, Moorish American, you know, taking your place to do the work that you're doing, like, you know, putting out the newsletters and stuff like that, so we can get a little background of how it manifested for you.
Will do. I will start. I just looked it up just so I could be precise. October 28, 2011 was the specific day that I first became aware. Prior to that, I had been in the Occupy Oakland rallies and different movements out here. You know, from about, you know, early on 2011, really just trying to figure out what's going on in the world. You know, I was hearing all the 2012 end of the world stuff. I said, you know, I have a family, wife, and children. I said, I got to figure this out. And so that night, I was speaking with some people, and I would just kind of drift around, listening to conversations. You know, even the people that I used to think was crazy. You know, just hearing anyone out. Am I a little too loud? Turn it down, son.
Yeah, you're good.
And I happened to turn around, and there was a brother just standing right next to me, and he said, do you want to know what's really going on? I said, sure. And he started pointing out the Masonic symbols in front of City Hall and explaining some of the things that, you know, are familiar with Freemasonry and that information. And then he proceeded to show me his Freemason card and his ring. And then he dropped a jewel on me about Allah and how it, it stood for arm, leg, arm, head. And so that's when he started to pique my interest. And he said, well, I've never heard about the Moors. And I said, no. And so, I ended up sending email. Anytime I get information that I want to look up, I just send an email to myself. And so he mentioned Moors / Moors, or M-U-U-R-S, the Treaty of Peace and Friendship. And I remember vividly the next day at work, went on to Google, typed in Moors, and I was blown away. And this was just the information about Spain and, how they were ruling, there for 700 years. Fast forward a little later, I started, on my YouTube search, and I stumbled onto this guy named Taj Tariq Bey in a video called The Divine Warning for a Black Nation. And from there, I went off to the races, and then I ended up stumbling onto Brother Cujo and the video about hip-hop and wars. And so from then, I knew it was on. And so I started studying more, trying to get my hands, I'll show you actually, because active more is not passive. And so they told me to study. So I started buying everything I could. The prophecies, more prophecies, more Ali, MSTA of degrees, the mysteries of silent brotherhood, bringing the people back into the constitutional fold of government, administrative functions, psychology of astrology, and all of these books can be found on R.V. Bey Publications. The Circle of Life, Clock of Destiny, Correcting the Position of the IRS, A Woman Called Rebecca, and the Divisions of the Moorish Nation, Warship, Dispellery, Back to Basics, Confused About Taxes, Zodiacal View on You, Divine Law and Evolution of Man, Clock of Destiny, Volumes 1 and 2, CMB, see that, brother? Moorish Literature. And I'm really just showing all of these to anyone that's out there so they don't think that, I just magically woke up, we woke up with this information. It took, a lot of hours, sleepless nights, falling asleep at the laptop, just studying the Oracle, how to study, conscious state of mind precepts, the Moorish Divine and National Movement, driver's license fraud, Moorish Divine and National Movement forced to make changes, peace to Grand Sheikh Nature Elbey, that brother as well, I believe it's Moorish Guidepost, 7 Principles of Love, Moors Civic Services, The Exhuming of the Nation, of course there's the Moorish, and as well, let's put these on the record, Masonic Gate, Volume 1, Volume 1, Issue 1, and Volume 1, Issue 2. Amazing work by Brother Abdullah, Brother Abdullah El Talib Mosey Bey, to be precise, and that's at moorcivilletter.net. And so with all of that being said, I just kept studying, and it got to a point, and also, while I'm doing all of this studying, I've just been building with different people. And I happened to meet a brother by the name of Malcolm El Haj Malcolm Shabazz, which is the grandson of Malcolm X. And there's a little backstory to all of that, but basically I just started building with him and even asked him about the Moors, and he was aware of the Moors, sent me this beginner's packet on Moorish information, but he was at the stage where he felt that Noble Drew Ali was a Prince Hall Freemason. So even that brother had a limited scope of the information. Fast forward a little bit, to his untimely assassination, I attended his funeral services here in Oakland. And when I went to the services, the security force that was inside the funeral, they were all muftis. They were all wearing black fezes. And the host of the services, he was rocking the red fez, and they were referring to us as Moors. And everyone around wasn't puzzled or wasn't shocked by the information. And so that's when I knew, for a fact, not just YouTube videos or any books, but with my own two eyes, that I saw this information was real.
Yeah. Just to touch. Go back to the funeral for a little bit.
I was just thinking, what the hell is this?
Yeah, because okay, so you're talking about the funeral, right?
Yes. Yes.
And the fact that that there's feathers all over the place, right?
All over.
And two, that nobody's
questioning
anything, right?
No. They're there. They're doing the post. I see them switching in and out like, this is normal. No one's shocked. No one's asking why are they wearing fezzes and who are these guys. No one's stopping the person that's hosting the funeral saying, why is he calling us Moors? Everyone was, it's the normal, it's the regular thing.
Malcolm Shabazz.
Yeah. And I actually, I just published an article entitled El Hajj Malcolm Shabazz, The Truth and More, which you can find on moorishoaklandstar.wordpress.com. That's the online newspaper that we helped to start out here. And at the end of the article, I found a picture of some people praying inside the funeral services. And one of the brothers in the back, you'll see, has a fez on. And also there's a video, I gotta find the link, but there's a YouTube video of them carrying the casket out of the funeral building. And you see the brothers out in the street with the fezzes. So if anyone wants to, validate what I'm saying, I offer that because, man knows not by being told.
Right, Islam. Could you also touch on a couple high points of the Oakland Star article that y'all did for El Hajj, for Malcolm Shabazz?
Yeah. In summary, it basically just details, my interactions, my relationship with him, from the moment I reached out to him on Facebook, to the different conversations we were having. One that was key was about how he was kidnapped by the FBI. A couple of days before, he hit me up and let me know he was going to Iran to do some study. And I wake up, I forget what day. I wake up and I see all on the news, Malcolm Shabazz arrested, by the FBI, no information given, no reason given, and then later, he put, expressing in detail the harassment that's been going on with him, and lets me know, not to believe anything unless it's coming from him, even including family, so that lets you know the level of opposition that we have going on right now. Mind you, this brother he was 26, 27. His lawyer, he found out, was CIA, Percy Sutton. That's in the article as well. So I mean, and I also found out through another brother that, he was being harassed long before that, to the fact where he was getting strange phone calls with 11, 12-digit numbers, and they were describing what he had on inside his house. So, it's some very interesting, it's very interesting, learning from that brother. And the more I started to listen, the more he would reveal to me. One being that he wasn't the reason for that fire that was for the death of Betty Shabazz, his grandmother. If you Google El Hajj Malcolm Shabazz, one of the first things that come up is that he was convicted for murdering his grandmother in a fire when he was 12 years old. And that was disproven not only by his words, but by an interview through the elder brother Dick Gregory, who was explaining that it wasn't him at all, that it was 4 men in hoods that came and set that fire, and that Malcolm himself stated that the police told him, the policy enforcers, informed him if he didn't agree to this statement that he would be in jail for life, and that they took him out to some far out place in Massachusetts, and he kept repeating the lies so much and over again that it just kind of stuck. And so that in itself was a big wake-up call for me, because while he wasn't rocking the fez, and he wasn't all the way aware of who we are, he was doing so much work and dealing with that kind of pressure of the whole world thinking he murdered his grandmother. And the whole time he didn't, and he served time in prison, and the whole nine. So the significance of the relationship, beyond just the Moors being there in the funeral services and him being aware of Noble Drew Ali, was the fact that this brother was doing all of this work, and he's the grandson of Malcolm X, or El Hajj Malik El Shabazz. Let's identify him properly. He was doing all of that work, with that kind of pressure, so then I had to reflect on, well, what am I doing? I have all of this information. I'm aware of what's going on. How come I'm not doing anything? And that was part of the inspiration for creating the Moorish Science Temple of America, International Asiatic Moorish Hip Hop Temple number 23, out here in Oakland, or the Bay Area territory, the Califia Republic. Is that I realized I kept looking around, even when I became aware of the information. I was looking all around California and trying to find a temple to go to. I sent emails to, as many people as I could find online, and I wasn't getting the responses that I was desiring. And I knew that I had the ability to put this information out. And I said, well, what am I waiting for? In the Quran, it states that, anyone that desires to issue a charter, that wants a charter, issue to, all the nation, all the states, and, so that's what I started doing. I got busy, studied, and, put together this temple. As you were saying before, the whole idea of the temple was to include everybody, international, so we're talking about all the nations. It's definitely put Asiatic, so we understand, where the roots are. Put in Moorish, so we understand, what this is really about. And hip-hop, that's the connector. That's the connector between all cultures, young and old, nations, whoever. Everyone understands hip-hop, everyone is dealing with hip-hop, and everyone knows that hip-hop started, as a culture in America. So, it's also Moorish, so I realized we need to make sure that we claim that, so it doesn't, in the history, it doesn't get, switched around a little bit, and it seems like it was, created from the Europeans, something crazy like that. Islam? Any questions so far?
Oh no, you can go ahead more. You got something? Good? We got one more.
Yes.
Well, I had come into this movement in a couple of different angles. One of them was listening to an artist called KRS-One, who created a book called The Gospel of Hip Hop, and he breaks down hip hop being defined as wholly integrated people having omnipresent power, I think was what hip hop stands for. But I got to get you that book. I'm planning to get you that book too. But he breaks that down, that is our that is our last. That is the last and most current form of our being right now, of who we are. Hip hop is that. Is the language of us. But I've also started to think that that's the language of music for us. Also, there are different facets to it. So hip hop is that angle of it. But that hip hop is our people coming about.
Indeed. I have the book, and I was actually fortunate enough. He had a show out here in San Francisco, and I was fortunate enough. I brought it to the show and got it signed by him.
Yeah, I have that. It's funny that you mentioned that, because he was here 2011. This is just 2010, just before I came in, and he was up at Jane and Finch doing the works too.
Yeah.
So he was passing out just the cover of it. He was throwing them on. They were littering the streets.
Yeah.
So I picked one of them up, and I went to a show that he had here, and he signed the book cover for me, and then I had to wait another year for the actual book to come out. But I think that it is. I want to get it for Grand Chic because I think that it. I think he's on it too. I just don't understand why he hasn't come out to talk about it. I sort of wonder whether it's that he's sort of playing the corporate game for the people. If that's sort of where my angle is, that's what I think. Because when you read it and you listen to his music, like your music is just conscious, it's there, but his stuff is veiled. It's he's saying everything that we're saying without saying it. So I'm freaked out by him, and I'm hoping that he comes back again. He came here to have a Stop the Violence thing, and he came there, and they didn't show up. It was just him, so he was sitting in the mayor's seat.
Oh, for real.
Sort of the same way you would go to face the same guy. And he came there, no one showed up against him. It was just him. But I was too nervous to sort of. I came and I shook his hand, but I was too nervous to sort of come up, and I wasn't on this yet.
Right.
But that book, as you know, it's my second read around, and I plan to make it. That and the Quran and the Red Book are the things that I read every night. Because it's the first gospel, right? Can you hold it? Can you hold it up? Do you have it there?
Let me. I'll be right back. I'll go grab it.
That's incredible. That's what I'm getting for. That's your earthly present. That's why I didn't want to say anything. But it's okay. Because it's the message in there.
Right.
This is just. But what he says is that hip hop is all music has come from us.
Yeah.
But hip hop is our last. It's
like our
last expression.
Yeah. Our last creative expression. Islam.
It's a brown book, right? Yeah. There you go.
That's the book right here.
Yeah.
You guys can see that?
800 pages.
Yeah.
Crazy. It's crazy, eh?
Crazy.
Yeah.
And I just read. We got the 14th overstanding, page 549. The hip hop nation peace.
Overstanding.
The 15th overstanding down law. I mean, brother, you definitely got to get this. I think you'll be very interested. But what is the brother that was just speaking?
It's
your name, brother?
It's Brother Omar. But as I said, this is how I know. This is how I know. I came into this from his cousin. I came onto this knowledge from a different angle, but the call is out there for us. We're waking up now. Right? But this brother there's something with him. That he's the guy. He's the only. Him and a few other artists are the only ones that I listen to, including you now. You were out there, but yeah, we don't have to focus too much on it because I want to get him the book. That's what I've been, because I sort of didn't know whether he'd want the book or not, and then I said I have to get it to him. But I think
the book was instrumental in me incorporating it, into the idea of the temple.
Yeah.
And because it's another. I mean, it's law. That in there it's a lot of brilliant information. Breaks down hip hop as a culture, the different types of hip hop as a culture, hip hop as a product. Just amazing information in there.
Yeah.
And I was actually trying to find the part in the Red Book where it talks about the musicians, how there's master, you know, these,
I think it goes near the end. It's like one of the last three, one of the. So,
but you know, I'm speaking about how
he's saying that basically these musicians were masters from time. 10,000 years could not create these people, right?
Right, and they're back to learn different lessons.
Yeah, so
I find that very interesting, considering you know, how good we are with music. You know what I mean? I found the correlation very interesting.
I'll just jump on this point because I heard from him too that his son committed suicide. I don't know if you heard that. Karis is one of his sons committed suicide, and I find it interesting. The same with this Malik Shabazz. What's his last name? Al-Hajj. That basically what's happened is these sorcerers, they know where the lines come from. So what they've had to do is they've gone in there and they're doing their work. Who knows what would have happened to this guy if he wasn't convicted of this fraudulent thing with his grandmother, right? So that's our sorcery. That's our stuff, and they've been using it on us. But I think KRS-One is another one. I think that they did something to his son too. I'm convinced of it. But anyways, we don't have to focus on that.
Nah.
But, yeah.
But just to kind of to close out on this topic, I feel the same way, and it's, you know, it's also why I included it, you know, with this temple. Is, you know, let's call it for what it is. It's time to draw the line. Yeah. You know, there's Nas mentions Noble Drew Ali. Jay-Z talks about being in Morocco with his fellowship. You know, Kanye is close with Yasin Bey. As we know, you know, he dropped the idea of being Mos Def and took on the Moorish title. All of these different artists are mentioning Jay Electronica. He rocks the Fez. Mentioned Noble Drew Ali several times in his raps. KRS-One, he seems to be aware. And also on the website for the temple, which is iamhh.weebly. That's weebly.com. If you scroll all the way to the bottom, there's a clip on there of the elder, spacing at the moment, one of the founders of hip hop. Can someone give me a hand?
Would it be Africa Bambaataa? Who?
He makes a declaration in New York, in some sort of government building, and he identifies the so-called blacks and browns and indigenous peoples as Moors. Yeah. So, you know, you have the founder of hip-hop, one of the founders of hip-hop, calling us, or, you know, knowing information. KRS-One, you know, all of these major artists, and, you know, I'm gonna start. We gotta call them out. You know what I mean? If I don't understand why they aren't speaking on it, but you know, we're gonna bring it to the people's face.
That's my question too.
Get the people thinking for themselves.
Islam.
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 Let's get back to a few more of the prophecies real quick. Islam?
Yeah, right ahead, more.
Okay. One moment here. All right, here we are. Prophecy number 65 on page 13. And it reads, I got here just in time. He, Noble Drew Ali, said that the Europeans were looking for him with airplanes and with dreadnoughts. When the Holy Prophet came into the country, the U.S., the U.S., he was asked, where are those books that you have? She said that the Prophet just smiled, but he told the Moors that he had the book in his head. That's when the Holy Prophet dictated the Holy Prophet, Noble Drew Ali, Quran of the Moor Science Temple of America, to the printer. He did it from memory. The printer was amazed. And so going back, to know what you at least say, that we need to pay attention to the media, the news and the radio, and if we fast forward now, TV, movies and such, etc. They're going to make the European tell the truth. And there's a movie, a film called The Book of Eli. Has anyone seen that film?
No, I haven't.
No, but I thought it would be something to watch. That's with, is it Denzel? No. Who's it?
Yeah.
Well, it stars Denzel Washington.
Yeah.
And I'm just going to read you the tagline or the summary of the movie. A post-apocalyptic tale in which a lone man fights his way across America in order to protect the sacred book that holds the secrets to saving humankind. And if you do wish to see the movie, understand that this is a spoiler alert. Spoiler alert. But at the end of the film, Denzel Washington, he's going throughout the lands, protecting the book. This mobster guy, they're after him with their gangs and, try to fight him, At the end of the movie, when he gets to the destination, a printing press, he recites the book that he had been keeping secret from memory. Now, maybe it's a coincidence, but
Doubt it.
the whole Quran teaches us that there's no coincidences. And the writer of that film, by the way, is English. So there's a European telling us the truth. But I invite you to watch the movie. There's a lot of Jews in there, a lot of amazing things going on, and films in general. Let's move forward. And another film, a Disney film, Atlantis. That's something I watch all the time. There's so many Jews, some of the children films. But speaking about Atlantis, prophecy number 138, Brother J. Black Obey, SGA, and M told the Moors that the Holy Prophet said, Atlantis is going to arise again. And here is where I'll cite from a few different texts regarding Atlantis. And this is just simply to validate, for those that may doubt that Noble Ali is a prophet. Because mind you, he was making these statements in the 1910s, 1920s. So this is a good 80, 90 years before many of these things were happening. Before, we knew about the conspiracy with the U.S. Federal Reserve notes and et cetera, et cetera. Regarding Atlantis, Spandu Mystery, you see that there, written by Peter Moon. And if you look closely on the cover there, it's Noble Ali. He has a chapter entitled Atlantis Rising. Chapter 48.
Yeah. No, you have that book?
I will read just a little bit from it.
Must be like that novel.
It's the Peter Moon one? Yeah. He did the book of the
345. As above, so below. He said that he had consolidated his power in the United States, which was not the new Atlantis, but part of the old Atlantis too. He said that George Washington was his key in the initial struggle for power in the United States. I personally found this, had long recognized Washington as an indigenous person. I am referring not only to the Indians, but to the Moors. The tribal chiefs always recognized Washington as having Moorish blood. Did you ever notice that there are no, quote-unquote, white people named Washington? They all seem to be black, quote-unquote, because the name Washington derives from the Moorish Washita Empire, who are recognized as the oldest indigenous people of the earth. Place names like Wichita are also named after them. And then I'll skip ahead to page 351. And there we are. You will now better understand the tradition that George Washington embraced when he established the lighthouse at Montauk, an act that occurred rather late in his life. Montauk, however, is not only a key spot with regard to the Egyptian mysteries, but also to those of Atlantis. It was not only once connected to Egypt, but it was a major point of attraction in Atlantean times. The mysteries, however, do not end here. You, my friends, are only at the... And so, you know, this is Peter Moon, a European, telling the truth. Further on, actually, let me go back to this book, because that was just relating to Atlantis. But we're gonna touch on chapter 9, which is entitled El Morocco. And I'm reading from page 62. Yes, do come. As a matter of fact, that man in the colorful cap insisted I invite all of you over. The Moor then pointed to an Oriental man who was wearing a rainbow-colored cap, which made him stand out amongst the others. He was also wearing a white saffron robe. Crowley, which is actually Aleister Crowley, and I have one of those as well. Aleister Crowley, 777, and other Kabbalistic writings. Very, very key information. But let me continue. Crowley looked up at the Tibetan as if he recognized him. He gestured to Rose, and the entire party made their way to the table of the Moor's entourage. Although not a word was spoken, this was a very special gathering of a brotherhood that traced its roots back to the ancient magi of antiquity. They were a sacred brotherhood of wisdom that reached across continents. On this morning, they had gathered to celebrate the initiation of young Timothy Drew, a man who was just about to begin his education in the brotherhood. Just days before, the Moor, at the direction of his brethren, had taken a blindfolded Timothy to the king's chamber, whereupon he was to either find his way out or perish, with ancient rite of initiation into adeptship. But it was not offered to just anyone. Timothy Drew was a man of special abilities, who had found his way from America to the delta of the Nile. From there, it did not take him long to get to Cairo. When he arrived, the brethren was already waiting for him. In fact, he was expected, not because he had sent a letter or was summoned by normal human means, but because it was foreseen. Now that he had passed his initial test of initiation, he would undergo a 10-year training program before returning to America to teach that land the truth of its ancient heritage and what had been forgotten. Islam?
Islam.
All right.
Islam.
Any questions on that one?
Nah, still taking it in.
All right. I understand. When I read it, it blew my mind. And I wanted to get a little bonus information in here. We were speaking about, oh, that's right, Atlantis. Further validating the information regarding Atlantis. Another European. This brother's named Stephen S. Mailer, The Land of Osiris. Amazing information. And I'm reading from page 160. The chapter is called Kemet and the Myth of Atlantis. From my extensive research and interest in metaphysics, I became aware that Plato's Atlantis story, the stories of even older civilizations, such as Sumerian in the Pacific Ocean, are accepted parts of Western metaphysical tradition. Groups such as the Rosicrucians, the Freemasons, the Theosophical Society, the Association of Research and Enlightenment, the Order of the Golden Dawn, and the Poor Knights of the Temple of Solomon, the Knights Temple, have all accepted the myth of Atlantis as a real event that occurred in time and space. And so, amazing information. I don't want to get too much into that book. Just another source to validate not only Atlantis, but also the prophecy of Noble Drew Ali that Atlantis will arise. And finally, with Atlantis, I'm going to be reading from the Emerald Tablets of Thoth, the Atlantic. And this is also in the Holy Quran. Let's read from that for a moment before I get into that text. I'm going to be reading from chapter 10, from line 18. Man names the part of Allah he sees, and this to him is all of Allah. And every nation sees a part of Allah, and every nation has a name for Allah. You Brahmins call him Padabram. In Egypt he is Thoth, and Zeus is his name in Greece. Jehovah is his Hebrew name, but everywhere he is the causeless cause, the rootless root from which all things have grown. So here we have Drew Ali mentioning Thoth. We also have the Emerald Tablets of Thoth. And I'm going to just read the preface of this information and give you a key to what's going on. The history of the tablets translated in the following pages is strange and beyond the belief of modern scientists. Their antiquity is stupendous, dating back some 36,000 years BC. The writer is Thoth, the Atlantean priest king who founded a colony in ancient Egypt after the sinking of the mother country. We're going to get to the mother country in a moment. He was the builder of the Great Pyramid of Giza, erroneously attributed to Cheops. In it, he incorporated his knowledge of the ancient wisdom and also secreted records and instruments of ancient Atlantis. For some 16,000 years, he ruled the ancient race of Egypt, from approximately 50,000 years BC to 36,000 years BC. At that time, the ancient barbarous race, among which he and his followers had settled, had been raised to a high degree of civilization. Thoth was an immortal. That is, he had conquered death, passing only when he willed, and even then not through death. His vast wisdom made him ruler over the various Atlantean colonies, including the ones in South and Central America. Islam?
Islam.
All right. And so I wanted to read real quickly from the Exultant of a Nation, Noble Drew Ali, through Elihu Pleasant Bay. If you haven't got this, I highly suggest you find it, pick it up. Amazing information. And I'm going to be reading from the 102 questionnaires that I initially actually found on the Canaanland Temple website not too long ago. I'm going to be reading just a few of the questions. What kind of flag is the Morch? It is a red flag with the 5-pointed green star in the center. What do the 5 points represent? Love, truth, peace, freedom, and justice. And how old is our flag? 50,000 years. 50,000 years old. And we know that you can't have a flag without a nation. So our nation is at least 50,000 years old. And to validate that claim, again by a European telling the truth, we have a book entitled, if you just give me one moment here, excuse me, The Lost Continent of Mu by Colonel James Churchward. Now I'm going to just read the first page, chapter 1. The Garden of Eden was not in Asia, but on a now sunken continent in the Pacific Ocean. The biblical story of creation, the epic of the 7 days and the 7 nights, came first not from the peoples of the Nile or the Euphrates Valley, but from this now submerged continent, Mu, the motherland of man. These assertions can be proved by the complex records I discovered upon long-forgotten sacred tablets in India, together with the records from other countries. They tell this strange country of 64 million inhabitants who, 50,000 years ago, had developed a civilization superior in many respects to our own. They described, among other things, the creation of man in the mysterious land of Mu. And the first edition of this was printed in 1931. So, this is Noble Drew Ali's prophecies, manifested. Islam?
Islam.
Any questions so far?
Quick question. As far as Atlantis and Mu, how much research have you found with regard to the connection of the Moors to those land masses as well?
I found a lot, but the key that I'm discovering, especially with Atlantis and Mu, is that they're used. Like Mu is often referred to as Lumeria, and they always try to make Mu or Meria as well as Atlantis appear to be a myth. And so you see a lot of different information. So it's been a bit difficult trying to find the precise information that states Moors. But if once you realize that the terms that they were using, and Mu specifically is the people's M-U-U-O, and we know that the vowels are just placeholders, so that's no different than M-O-O-R, more. Atlantis is a little bit trickier. So I don't know if that answers your question.
Islam.
Yeah, and also, in truth, once I found out, like the book, The Lost Continent of Mu, and it actually has a map in here. Let me see if I can put it on the screen for you.
And as far as
if you can see this here, this right here is Mu. This would be South America, North America. It's the Pacific Ocean. And right here, really small, is Easter Island. And Easter Island, we do know, has these huge stone statues with fezzes. They call them other things, with fezzes on their head. But all of the scientists and the researchers, they never provide an explanation of how those things got there. But those are the remains of the continent that's sunk. So Easter Island is still visible, but it's connected to the whole motherland of Mu.
Islam.
Say it again.
No, you're good, Mark. Go ahead.
So I just wanted to close up with a few more prophecies regarding the Europeans specifically. Page 31, prophecy 232, oral statement. Brother J. Foster Bay of Temple number 4 and number 25 said that the Holy Prophet said, the European is our fellow man. And I looked up fellow in a law dictionary, 3rd edition. I have it somewhere, but I looked it up and wrote it down. And in the 3rd edition of the Black's Law Dictionary, it states that a fellow is a co-worker, a partaker or sharer of, a companion, one with whom we consort, one joined with another in some legal status or relation. And then I also looked it up in the 1828 Dictionary of the American Language by Noah Webster. And in there it states that a fellow is a companion, one of the same kind, an equal, one of a pair, or two things used together and suited to each other. So, I state that to say that we have to get past judging a person by their skin, because there's some European brothers and sisters that are helping us out much more than our darker complexion, Asiatic brethren.
For real.
A shout out to Rick Smith, the UFO too, amazing brother as well. And another prophecy that Noble Ali stated, told the Moors, children, and this is prophecy number 86, children, when you get on top, treat him nice. When the Moors get on top, they're told that we must treat the Europeans nice. So I mean, a lot of the anger, and a lot of the feelings that we may have towards Europeans in general, we gotta let go, and we have to, realize that, you can't judge, the whole nation by the actions of a few. Similarly, you can't judge Moors by the actions of a few that may not be doing things properly. Islam. And with that, I'll close out with this last prophecy, number 208. And it says, you, stop figuring out your way, how your salvation shall come. Just follow me. You can say one thing, Moors, you have made a start for the kingdom. If you want success, you must follow the prophet. And I state that first, to let us know and be reminded that we are on the path. We made a start for the kingdom. But also a notice to any of the people out there that are trying to usurp the prophet's powers, that are trying to stand in front of the prophet and create their own way, to be mindful of what the prophet said, to follow him. That's how success will come. And he didn't say, I think you should follow me, or you can follow me if you want to. He said you must. If you want success, you must follow the prophet. Islam? So that was all I had in terms of the oral statements and prophecies. If there weren't any questions, I was just going to highlight, some of the things out of the Morning Star newsletter that I've been publishing.
Right, I got one or two questions. What type of if you have 2 or 3 impacting experiences that you've had since you came into this information, being that you're in the area that you're in of Northwest Mexico. We hear a lot about that area with regard to gangs and violence, etc. like that. Is it similar to other places as far as you trying to get the information to people? Like, for example, Brother Casanova in Milwaukee, he has been able to bridge that gap between the gangs and the regular people, getting the gangs to understand the perspective of moral science.
Islam in that, brother. Actually,
being that they were taught that, but just some impacting experiences that you had, and that was the first question. Whether it's for Europeans, whoever, just speaking about Moorish history and things that have happened to you, and secondly, with regard to our brothers and sisters out there that are in the lower south activities, and getting the word to them to bring them up. How's that going?
Well, let me answer that one first. But first, also, let me say a huge shout out to Brother Casanova. That's a great example of a Moor that's active and is leading with love. And I'll provide this example. In the first newsletter, I put the current date, as 2014, but I also used the Islamic year 1435. And unlike some of the Moors that you see frequenting a lot of your posts, Cujo, that just try to tear down people who are active, this brother hit me up, in private and was just offering a correction on the date. And so, I just wanted to show him a lot of love, because that was an excellent example of lifting, your brother, as opposed to just trying to tear down and to be the people that are working to be active, and also just a notification to anyone. If I'm ever in there, please correct me. I'm not above correction or fault, and most importantly, I just want to get things corrected and wise and exact. So if I'm in error, please correct me so we can get path. And I feel like if we put that energy out towards each other, we'll correct a lot of the misleading teachings that are out in errors that we've been. As to waking up the people out this way, it's been very difficult. At least within the people that I know. I mean, a little bit about myself. I was pretty good in terms of academics. Growing up in school. Got like a 3-point, like a high GPA, almost all A's in high school. Got us academic scholarship to college. So my whole life, people have known me to be intelligent or quote unquote smart. But as soon as I got on this information and I started telling people, all of a sudden I became crazy. I didn't know what I was talking about. Waking up our people is a very difficult task. But there is, some shining lights. I actually hooked up with some Moors out in Antioch territory out this way, which is about 30, 40 minutes outside of the Bay, or outside of Oakland rather. And they're active. And there's, actually I'll highlight this right now. The brother, funny enough, Rami Bay is bringing out Taj Tariq Bey next weekend, Sunday, June 8th, at Samuel Merritt University. So Taj is going to be presenting, as well as that brother. So, slowly but surely, we're connecting the dots here in Northern California, and then the sisters and brothers down in Southern California, with Temple number 101 in Los Angeles. They're doing amazing work as well. I'm actually traveling down there and linking up with them, to hopefully unite the entire Khalifa of California Republic, and really start pushing this thing on a serious tip. But yeah, it's difficult. But I will say, that even just being aware of the information has caused people to respond differently. But also because I'm asking different questions. I went to this donut shop. This donut shop that also sells Chinese food. A brother from, actually he's from Vietnam. He was running the shop, and one day I asked him, I said, what flag is that? He put the flag on the wall hanging up. I said, what flag does that represent? What's your nationality? And he started breaking things down to me. And I said, I was just explaining to him that I'm becoming more interested in different nations and travel. And he said, you know what? You should really go to Egypt. You should really go look at the pyramids, and also go to some of the temples. And this, I didn't mention Moorish anything. I didn't mention anything about nationality, Noble Ali, anything like that. And another time, actually coming out of that donut shop, it was two brothers that appeared homeless, and one asked me for some change, and I gave him a couple fiat notes, dollars or whatever, and another European brother came up, and so he was just expressing that it's good to see people helping each other out, and we need to be more like Jesus. Who knows? And he looked at me and said, "Who knows? You could be Jesus." and I said, what is your name, brother? And he said, his name at the time he said was William. And I said, you know, I said, peace, I'm Rami Salaam El. And at that point he bowed, and he said, assalamu alaikum. He said, my Muslim name is Kareem. And so this was like a, you know, this brother was European, you know, didn't appear to be a big thing. And as soon as I mentioned, you know, that my name was, you know, Rami, or appellation rather, Rami Salaam El, you know, he bowed to me and gave me his Muslim name. So, you know, that's one experience, you know, on a small level. A different experience, and it's a kind of a long story, but in short, I traveled to Cairo, Egypt, you know, over there in the east, and I had a lot of different experiences. But one of the brothers that I met over there, you know, he was explaining to me that I need to, you know, stop trying to do everything on the large scale and just take small steps and just, you know, work with the people closest around me and start to change things. And when I came back home, and mind you, a little preface to this, my wife, you know, she's still asleep, if you will. She hasn't really accepted the information, and I've been desperately trying to, you know, just read this or check this out, and you know, I've been pushing, and so when we came back, you know, I just touched down from Cairo. We're driving, and I stopped at the light, and there was another brother asking for some change, and I gave him, you know, a few what I had, and I also had this letter that I wrote. That I was sending out to politicians and human rights organizations and, you know, black leaders, you name it, Barack, everyone. You know, when I found out this information, I started, you know, trying to let everybody, you know, the world know, thinking that they were asleep, but everyone knows, mind you. But I asked this brother, I had the letter with me, and I said, you know, if you don't mind, I have this letter that I wrote, you know, can you check it out for me? And he said, sure. He took the letter, and he starts to open it, and he's reading it, and he's like, yeah, the Moors. I learned about these brothers about 40 years ago. And he started dropping information about, you know, Moorish American this, and, you know, Moors that, Prophet Noble Charlie this. And mind you, you know, I just ran into this brother, and my wife was sitting right next to me. So it was like an amazing confirmation to her that there was something, you know, really true about this information. So those are some of the experiences that I've had as of late. Islam.
Peace and love, more. You got as well. If you want to plug any sites or any books that you got that you think people should go out and get, other than the ones that you did already. And, I don't know. And any closing remarks that you want to make? If you want, you know, message to the Moors, whoever might be watching this. You know, Canaanland's YouTube's pretty busy. You know, with traffic, so you don't know who's gonna bump into. You don't know who's gonna bump into the class.
Indeed. Well, I'll put this one on the record. The World's Greatest Men of Color by J.A. Rogers. This is volume 2. I have volume 1, but if you can get your hands on volume 2, amazing. You know, granted, the use of color and Negro and all of that, but he talks about Saint Maurice, you know, a famous saint, you know, from Europe. There was this Roman, you know, he's hooked up with the Romans and was ordered to go kill off some Christians. And when he got to the village, he told his crew, you know, they agreed they're not going to kill the Christians because, you know, those are our brothers in Christ, and, you know, brothers in faith, rather. And eventually, you know, the Roman general came, you know, because they defied the orders, he beheaded the whole, you know, pretty much the whole group. And I find that story very impactful, especially for those of our brothers and sisters that have been in the church and that have been, you know, in the Christian and down with the Christianity information. You know, I feel that's a very key point because everyone else recognizes this brother as a Moor. And he's a Christian Moor, if you will. So then I would ask them, how come no one teaches you about this saint? You know, because this is the first time I read about him, and Saint Benedict is another one. Those are both two Moors, known as Moors all throughout Europe, highly respected, and yet we don't learn about them. And, you know, the reason being is because, you know, it lets out the secret. You know, also, let's see what else we got. Behold the pale horse. Very key information. He drops some books about the King Alpha plan. I have that book as well. But that's, you know, you can look that up, research one of the older clips from Cujo. He can definitely give you some information. But, you know, that's about it. You know, pretty much, I appreciate the time, appreciate the information. Please look up the Morning Star newsletter. We have a lot of information in here. Let's see if I can read a few things here.
Yeah, we got a little time still, more. So if you wanna, yeah, we got some time still.
Okay. I'm gonna read about here. Let's read the statement from President Barack Obama. And it's from his speech in Cairo in 2009, I believe. Islam has always been a part of America's. The first nation to recognize my country was Morocco. In signing the Treaty of Tripoli in 1796, our second president, John Adams, wrote, "The United States has in itself no character or enmity against the laws, religion, or tranquility of Muslim." And since our founding, American Muslims have enriched the United States. They have fought in our wars, they have served in our government, they have stood up rights, they have started businesses, they have taught at universities, they've excelled in our sports arenas, they've won Nobel Prizes, built our tallest building, and lit the Olympic torch. And when the first Muslim American was recently elected to Congress, he took the oath to defend our Constitution using the same Holy Quran that one of our founding fathers, Thomas Jefferson, kept in his personal library. So let there be no doubt, Islam is a part of America. And I believe that America holds within her the truth that regardless of race, religion, or station in life, all of us share common aspirations: to live in peace and security, to get an education and to work with dignity, to love our families, our community, and our God. These things we share. This is the hope of all humanity.
Islam. Peace, Islam.
And also, actually, let me find a quote from the autobiography of Malcolm X. Let me see if I can find it real quickly. It was from when he was, and this book was very instrumental in my awakening, when he took his trip to Mecca. Let's see if we can find it.
Well, while you're looking for that, more question as well.
Islam.
What do you think, or do you think that, or no? What do you think about the photo shoot that Malcolm Shabazz did, doing all the images from El Hajj? And the connection between that and his assassination, or other things that you know link the parallels, because from what I understand, the grandson was sort of taking the steps of granddad, if you will.
more than I realized. I mean, I stumbled on after meeting him. He had met with Brother Gaddafi,
right,
out from Libya, who was also assassinated. And he was he studied in Syria, Medina, all over the East. The story and the path that he was on is eerily similar to El Hajj Malik. The poses that he would do is, the finger on his temple. He even did a photo shoot where he kind of recreated some of the images.
Yeah.
And the resemblance is uncanny. And further, the thing that was so special about him was that he had the ability to connect with everyone. From the brothers that are locked down in prison, the gangs on the street, to the scholars of Islam in the East. He was on Press TV, which is the international news network. He was linking up with brother Randy Short, who's another brother out there that that dropped some good information. So he was on that path, in the same sense. And I feel, that might have been the reason why he was assassinated, because they saw, the potential in it, and that he was awake, he was aware of what's going on, and he was, linked up with our brothers and sisters down in Central and South America. That's where he ended up being assassinated. So, the revelation, or when we realize that we're all connected, that's going to be our true power. And I feel that he really had the ability and the connections to make that happen. Islam. Yeah, and I can't find the quote on from Malcolm X, but in essence, he speaks about when he was on his Hajj, he sat down with brothers that had the blondest of hair and the bluest of eyes, and who would be considered quote unquote white here in America, but they didn't see themselves as white over there. They saw them as brothers. All brothers in a family of humanity, or a family of man. And that was the first me felt like a complete human being. And I just mentioned that because I really feel, that's one of our major hurdles we kind of got to get over, is the idea that all Europeans, or quote unquote white people, are bad, or they're the evil, they're the devil. Because it makes it clear in the Quran itself. I think that's a good one we can end with. That. I can end on that note. Let's get that quick. Here we are. It's speaking about the higher self and the lower self. Islam.
Yeah.
And this is from chapter 3, Elihu's Lessons, the Unity of Life. And it states that this evil is a myth. These gods are made veiled, clothed with shadows of thought. The only devil from which men must be redeemed is self, the lower self. If man would find his devil, he must look within. His name is. And if man would find his savior, he must look within. And when the demon self has been dethroned, the savior, love, will be exalted to the throne of power. So, we gotta get out of the spookism, we gotta get out of the scary boogeyman, all white people are the devil, indoctrination or philosophy, ideas, opinions that we've been believing. And we need to realize that, we need to level this with ourselves, the lower self, the hate, and move with love, truth, peace, freedom, and justice. Islam?
Islam. No, one more question, more. What,
Yes.
Do you have any information with regard to how California got its name and its relation to Queen Khalifa?
Say it one more time.
Do you have any information with regard to California getting its name and its connection to Queen Khalifa?
Indeed. It was ruled at a time by Queen Khalifa and the group of women that was ruling and was fending off people who was trying to come take power. And in fact, there's a hotel in San Francisco that actually has a mural of Queen Khalifa that you can, if you look online, I think if you just search for Queen Khalifa, San Francisco, you should be able to turn up one of the images. So that's where they, although in the, if you look like on Wikipedia, the history of California, you try to attribute to the myth as to the reason California is called California. But when you look deeper, you realize that it wasn't a myth at all. And in fact, I was doing some research in California, and there's a city named El Muerto or Muerto that has some interesting sculptures there as well. So, as well as just around here is El Cerrito, the Bay Area in itself. There's a lot of and funny enough, I just when I was in San Francisco, I stumbled onto a street called Broadmoor, B-R-O-A-D, Moore Street. So that was there. In Oakland, I stumbled onto a street called Mauritania. So the keys are there. The keys are there in front of our face if we choose to see. Islam?
Any questions? Everybody good? So one more for Brother Rami Salaam El. Islam more appreciated.
Islam.
Could you plug whatever sites and if you got any shows or something, whatever's going on for yourself?
Indeed. Well, the site that I work on, the temple site is IAMHHtemple.weebly, WEEBLY.com. I have like a lot of the foundational information. We can read the whole Quran online, the 101s just for Moorish Americans, the Divine Constitution. I have the House Resolution. I have the Moorish Divine and National Movement summary document there, as well as some, a lot of information. I say go there. We have the university section with the news sections. It's a lot of information site. On YouTube, you find some of the lessons that I posted. On the channel is named International Asiatic. A lot of information, key lessons on there. MoorishopenStar.wordpress.com. That's why an online newspaper until I can actually we can get together and publish a full spread newspaper, and that's actually what spawned the newsletter. Until we could fill out the whole paper, we just decided to do one page front and back newsletters to get the information out to people. Aside from that, as an MC, I put out some music as of recent, with a lot of keys and a lot of information to help awaken people. So I would say to look up the song Mo Gold Kila Kutu. And that's MOGOLD, Kila, KILA, Kutu, KITU. And that song is a song I did over Trinity Ames song, All Gold Everything. And it's basically saying more gold everything, but Kila Kutu is in Swahili. So that's a key because we definitely need to expand our different languages, including Spanish. But in there, I dropped a lot of information regarding Noble Ali and the Moors. So if you can, check out that song. And my hip-hop name, or my hip-hop MC name, is Cliff Solo. And that's CLIFSOULO. And you gotta, excuse some of the earlier works as I was asleep. So, you know what I mean? There's a few niggas and a few blacks and black powers and all of that in there. But you feel where I'm coming from.
It's all good. It's all good. There's a lot more. One more time. Give thanks more.
It's live. And I have to say, let me definitely get this on the record. The works you guys are doing in Canaanland is very instrumental, not only to myself but the world over. You guys are a key point into the awakening, not only with the Moorish Americans here, but with Moors everywhere. So much love and respect and appreciation for all the work you all have been doing. Islam?
Islam, more appreciate that. And we'll just close out with the prayer.
All right.
And that should be it. 5 on the left, 2 on the right. Allah, the Father of the universe.
Allah, the Father of the universe.
Father of love.
Father of love.
Truth. Peace. Freedom. And justice. Allah is my protector.
Allah is my protector.
My guide. And my salvation. By night. And by day. Through His holy prophet. Noble Ali. Islam.